Good evening. I call to order meeting number 1807, the Planning and Zoning Commission at 6:32 p.m. We have a quorum. All 5 regular members are present. Are there any added agenda items? Legal notice, there were none. This is the public participation portion of our meeting. Are there any comments from those attending remotely or in the room here at Town Hall who wish to speak for something that's not already on tonight's agenda? Any comments from the public for something that's not already on tonight's agenda?
Hey, Joe, it's Noreen Farmer, 247 South Water Street. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Noreen.
I was just curious if all the work that Terry Hahn did down here in Warehouse Point, if that was going to come back up, on whose agenda would that be going to next if you guys have finished with it?
That's on the Planning and Zoning Commission's plate to consider enacting some regulations associated with that planning study. So that's something they'll be working through the Planning and Development Office for consideration. Yes, it's that hard work has not been forgotten. It's just on the long list of things to do, Noreen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, we'll move on. Approval of minutes for July 13th, 2021. Members of the commission, any comments, questions, corrections?
I have none.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting 1806 that was held July 13th, 2021.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I abstain. I was not present. So motion carries. Receipt of applications. I'm not aware of any. Next up, continue public, under new public hearings. PZ 2021-23, special use permit, 69 Depot Street for an accessory apartment. The applicant is Jacobs Home Improvement, owner Brian and John Vincent Picastine. This was postponed from our meeting 2 weeks ago, which was July 13th, 2021. Is there someone here to present this one? Is there anyone here to present on 69 Depot Street under the new public hearings? You recognize any of the names from the previous?
The only number I'm not sure is 490. Okay. To check the number on the application. I sent the agenda to that one.
That's not one of the numbers listed on there.
Tim Jacob was supposed to represent him.
Yeah, whoever was listed there, and that's I sent the agenda to you last week. Oh.
You know what? Perhaps what we can do is move them to the end of the agenda. If they're still a party, and we can consider we can do that just before our business meeting tonight. Just moving them to give them an opportunity to show up. So
Yeah. Let me make a while you do that. I'll try to get the calls.
just fellow commission members, okay with just moving them on the agenda, give them an opportunity? Why don't we put them after our, just before our business meeting?
After correspondence.
Yeah, after correspondence. So I think we need a motion to move this later on our agenda.
I'll make a motion to move the new public hearing on PZ 2021-23 for a special use permit at 69 Depot Street to between the end of correspondence and before our business meeting.
There's a motion on the table to move the special use permit for 69 Depot Street. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, so we'll entertain that later on in the agenda. Next up, under old business, PZ 2021-19, a text amendment application to East Windsor zoning regulations, section 802.1 and 802.4, a multifamily development district known as MFDD, applicant SJK Properties LLC. So this one, my understanding was postponed from the meeting we had a couple weeks ago. And any commission member want to start discussion on this one? So this is one, the public hearing is already closed and it's up for us to deliberate, getting close to the statutory amount of time we need to make a decision.
My recollection was that we waited until you were here because we didn't want to have a split decision if there was one going to be one. And I think, at least from my point of view, I think we've gone over the facts more than enough. I just want to remind everyone that, not that I have to, that it's a text amendment we're voting on, not housing or anything else. It's just a text amendment that we're voting on. I have to keep reminding myself that that's the only reason.
Understood. It's not site specific.
That's correct.
Okay, so I asked Mike to provide us with something that was in last week's packet. I don't know if you would have it also,
Yeah, I do.
showing all the current requirements. So currently, an R1 zone requires a half-acre lot for a piece of property, and R2 requires a 3/4 acre lot. And then the R3 was previously at a 1 acre and got changed to a 1.11, it comes out to acre lot. So the application is looking to allow the R3 to go to a 3/4 acre lot if the certain circumstances are met. So my understanding is a lot of times these lot sizes are required mostly because of either aquifer, wells, septic, the need for higher, more space in order to accommodate the homes. So I guess in this case, with the requirement of having city water and city sewer, it's not going to have any effect on the local aquifer. So what we're really just looking at is, are there certain circumstances that an R3 zone can have the same density as an R2 zone? And that's kind of, this helped me kind of put it into perspective that way, that it's basically going to meet the same density as an R2 zone.
Very good observation, Mike. Jim, any comments or no? Good. Ian, anything to add? A question?
Not really a question. What I was balancing too in my mind was the density and the fact that there's water and sewer. And the fact that the plan of conservation and development, in my mind, said we shouldn't consider multifamily within rural areas of the town. But I never really got the sense that anyone envisioned single-family homes with commonly owned ground, so condo but single-family homes isn't really, in my mind, multifamily. Multifamily, in my mind, is
Common walls.
common walls, denser than this. So I've come to terms with what I thought was a conflict, I can move past.
Okay.
I've come to terms with that. And the other thing I've been thinking about is when you have an association maintaining the overall property, you tend to get better maintenance over time. I know where I live, they're individual lots, and as the population changes over time, there is, I'll say, maybe less maintenance of yards. And when you live in a planned development, there is an association that takes care of that.
Mhm.
So I think you get better maintained homes as the properties age.
Anything else? Add in our deliberation as we consider.
I guess the other thing I have in my mind is we got very robust public comment, and that's appreciated. And
Well, just as they were they were talking about our thing, it went.
It might come back up.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can hear me. We're here at Town Hall trying to get the computer booted back up, but we had a power blip and it blew the computer somehow. So we're going to try to run it from another standby. All right, it's unmuted.
Okay. Just for the record, members of the audience, those who are listening remotely, we had a power outage temporarily at Town Hall, so we stopped all discussion, and we're still under old business, and the commission's deliberating on the proposed text amendment application under item 11 under old business. That's where we left off. Okay, so try to restart and get our minds back in focus here. So any other comments, members of the commission, on this one? Mike?
I have one question.
Sure.
When this proposal came in, there was a list of criteria that had to be met in order for something to qualify for this. That is not included into this memo. So if any kind of a motion is made, how do we reference or how do we know that all of that parts are included into this text?
I think you mean the language that he proposed.
Right.
So the only thing that's included in my memo are the two proposed changes. If you approve it, you're going to approve his language as submitted with my modifications. So that's part of the application.
Okay. And where is that stated in the terms and conditions?
Well, it's basically the site plan, right? So if you're approving it, you're approving the language, but we can workshop something if you want to.
It's not really a site plan.
Right.
It's zoning.
I'm saying when we normally approve the plan, we're looking at the document. In this case, it's the text, which is part of the application, but let me see what I can, I don't have it.
Well, I just didn't know if we had to reference a document, if we had to reference something in order to have one bind to the other.
Sure.
This is chaos. So the motion here, the motions for consideration,
Right.
this one is motion to approve for text amendment application. So any of the approval is granted subject to conformance with the submitted application, supporting materials and public hearing presentation as may be modified. So this document
Consider part of this.
is what he submitted in lieu of what we normally look at, which is a plan.
And then Mike is recommending 2 modifications.
To what the application consists of,
So-
or contains.
This with those 2 modifications.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So if there's no additional deliberation or discussion from the commission, so I'll entertain a motion to approve or a motion to deny. So if someone wants to grab the floor and make a proposal,
I think we should start with a motion to approve.
very
Hold on,
good.
Hold on one second. Right now they're saying there's no audio. Can you guys still not hear us on your end?
I can hear you, Mike.
Okay, I'm just trying to monitor all this stuff, so making no one gets looped out, okay? Good job. Okay. All right, sorry, guys.
I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2021-19 for a text amendment to the regulations, section 802.4, multifamily development district. The applicant is SJK Properties LLC. The approval is granted subject to conformance with the submitted application, supporting materials, public hearing presentations, as may be modified by the commission in this approval, and the following conditions and modifications. There are 2 findings. The commission finds the application as presented qualifies as a material change as required by section 900.7 of the zoning regulations. Finding 2, the commission finds that the proposed changes, including but not limited to the reduction in the overall density allowance, are in keeping with the general goals and principles of the Plan of Conservation and Development and existing multifamily development district regulations. And 2 modifications. Number 1, the proposed language for section 802.4 C1 shall be modified to read, the property to be rezoned is located within the R3 zone. And modification 2, the proposed language for section 802.4 B5 shall be modified to read A, C, E, P in parentheses. The site is not contiguous with another MFDD zoned parcel.
There's a motion to approve on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaudy. Any discussion? Hearing none, a call for a vote. All those in favor say aye or raise their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Next up, under new business, a presentation by Green Skies Clean Energy LLC for Mole Night 2.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Coaches, a professional engineer with VHB. I'm a senior project engineer and the project manager for VHB for the Mole Night 2 project. I'm joined by Bonnie Pataki, who is the project manager for Green Skies. She's waving at you guys. And we're here together as the project team representing the Mole Night 2 project. I'm gonna double check. I just want to make sure I have screen share capabilities, and I'm intending to Share a plan with you guys.
My own computer too.
See if I can duplicate.
No problem.
Can you guys see that site plan right now?
Not yet. Did we see the VHB logo?
Okay. How about now?
Yes. Yes,
It's weird that it's showing me a different monitor when I screen share, so sorry about that.
not a problem.
All right, so I'm just gonna take 5 or 10 minutes, walk through the presentation, the high level overview of the project, and then we'll open it up to questions from the commission, and we're happy to answer as much as we can today. So I'll start by showing you the overall site. This is the Molnite Farms site, bounded to the east by Barber Hill Road and Rockville Road, bounded to the west by Miller Road and Wapping Road. This was also the site where we were developing the Molnite 1 5 megawatt solar project, which now has all of its land use approvals through the state. And we're anticipating that going to construction shortly. That project was anticipated right here in the central part of the site. And the plan in front of you today contemplates a 1 megawatt solar array to the north of that up here, and 4 megawatt array down here to the south, which is bisected by the Eversource transmission right away. The site is almost entirely designated as prime farmland. So we are working through the Department of Agriculture on dual use uses of the property. So contemplating things like sheep grazing or crop growth within the solar arrays during the course and lifespan of the project. Regarding core forest, there's no forest land habitat impact area according to CTD maps. Just flipping back to this site, there's no forest at all on this site. Pretty much it's all active farmlands. We're also not proposing to take down any trees for this project for shading purposes, access purposes, panel purposes, or any other reason. Land survey has been completed. We had an A2T2 survey completed for the entire Molnite Farms property, which is multiple parcels. The project specs of the project that are in front of you today, and we will be intending to go to the siting council within the next couple weeks, are that the northern array up here is about a 1.3 megawatt DC project, which will have a nameplate capacity of 1 megawatt AC. This is what we're calling the Wapping Road parcel, as its connection goes up here to Wapping Road. And to the south, we've got about little over 5 megawatts DC, which will be inverted down to 4 megawatts AC, which is what we're calling the Miller Road parcel. This parcel does have an existing driveway down to Miller Road here and is also fully accessible from the farm fields to the north. Right now, we're assuming the use of 475 watt panels, installing about 13,400 and change across the 2 arrays. The total disturbance is about 5 acres in the north and about 20 acres in the south. Obviously, that level of disturbance is triggering a CTD stormwater general permit. So we have every intention of going to them to seek a state stormwater permit for this project. Access to the site is either from the north from Wapping Road down the farm fields, from the east from Rockville and Barber Hill, or from the west from Miller Road. And we're not really proposing any new curb cuts or accesses to the property. They're all existing farm roads that we're proposing to reuse. The FEMA classification is that there are no mapped flood hazard areas on the site. Aquifer protection, there are no aquifer protection areas on the site. The groundwater classification is GA. The FAA criteria as part of the siting council procedure is that We do exceed the notice criteria for Bradley Airport to the northwest, which I believe is between 3 and 4 miles away within their runway approach zone. So we will be coordinating with FAA to get a no determination resolution from them as part of our siting council application package. The NDDB status with CT Deep's Wildlife Division is that we have a final determination in hand from them, which is good for 2 years. We just got that a couple months ago. So as long as we start construction within 2 months, we're totally fine on that front. We've done all the consultation with the Wildlife Division. The SHPO status, the archaeological cultural status is that we've completed a phase 1A report of the site, which did come back that there could be portions of the site with moderate and high sensitivity for archaeological findings. Currently, the site is being farmed for shade tobacco, so we're not able to go in and do the phase 1B shovel test, but we understand that that harvest should be taking place within the next month or so, and that is when we will get our historic shovel tests for the phase 1B study underway, and intend to share those findings with the state siting council as soon as we have them. Wetlands, the only wetlands that were delineated on the entire site where this was this small patch of wetland to the south, which is actually a higher elevation than our project. So all of the farm fields actually drain to the north and to the west, generally collecting within this transmission right-of-way corridor. So no portions of our project are going to drain directly to a wetland on the site. There are no vernal pools. VHB was the wetland scientist here. So we did the wetland delineation. We also did a search for vernal pools and discovered none on the site. And the only visual impacts to the project that we're contemplating are residences around the southern array. The northern array is kind of tucked away. And with the grades and the vegetation, you really can't see it from almost anywhere off site. The southern array will have some visual impacts to the residences in the surrounding area, and Green Skies is currently working with the neighbors individually, as well as the town staff to discuss the impacts of the project. So that concludes the overview presentation of the project, and we're happy to field questions at this time. And just let me know if you want me to flip to a different plan or anything.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the abutting neighbors what their input is on this project. And have you contacted them? You said you did.
Oh, hi, this is Bonnie Pataki. I'm project manager of Green Skies. So the Green Skies process is yes. Thank you for your question, Chair Commissioner. We have done our preliminary outreach. It's not part of the outreach that's done when you submit the formal petition. But we have contacted the neighbors, and we're currently working with them about if they have any concerns and what those concerns are about their proximity to the southern array. We have not received any comments to the northern array off of Wapping Road, as we call it. So we are currently in discussions with them. I cannot share those discussions with you, but we are in contact with the neighbors who have reached out to us.
And how many neighbors are affected by this array, roughly?
Well, that is kind of a question that it's dependent upon the neighbor themselves, the abutter. Currently, I can share that we were contacted by, I believe, 3 neighbors that we're currently talking to.
So did you guys give them a formal letter introducing yourself? Is that how it worked?
It's not a formal letter, it's an outreach letter. As I said, there will be formal abutter notices sent once we actually submit the petition. We contacted what we thought would be direct abutters, and those all went out. And out of those letters that we did as our, standard outreach to get feedback from neighbors, we actually received feedback from 3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Bonnie, just following up on that, so the public hearing is part of the petition process where that follows? So
The public hearing, I'm sorry, Commissioner, are you referring to the public hearing that is part of the siting council?
Yes, yes.
Submission? Okay. The public hearing can be requested by the town. But really, the deliberations occur with our petition with the siting council.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. What is the life expectancy of the project?
The leasing agreement is 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a
Sure
question?
can.
My understanding is the town doesn't really have jurisdiction, the state does, because it's an energy project, am I correct?
That is correct.
It just, as a resident, I guess, I feel like how much of our town is going to be consumed with solar arrays? We had agricultural history and treasure the open space and the views we have. And I guess my understanding is we have no say.
Well, I would say that the siting council does take into consideration what concerns residents may have. In terms of their task is to look at a process with environmental impacts. And they are looking at how this project is also going to meet renewable energy goals. That's their task as the siting council.
Can I add on to that, Bonnie?
Sure.
Something that may help answer that question, maybe not. But one benefit of solar is that it only has a lifespan of, say, 20 years. So contemplated on these farm fields, and then at the end of 20 years, the petitioner, Green Skies, has a commitment to remove these panels and return the land to agriculture. So they're just leasing the land, and then it's going to be kept with the landowner who's owned it for however many years, and they're welcome to continue to farm it or do whatever they want with it in the end. So one nice thing about solar is that it really doesn't destroy the land, and that it can be returned to more natural uses down the line.
I understand and appreciate that, but I guess as a resident with maybe a 20-year lifespan remaining, the character of this town has always been agricultural. And the gravel pit solar wasn't really impacting our agricultural base. As we get more and more of these, it feels to me like we lose our agricultural character.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It is Green Skies' goal for both these arrays to continue agricultural activity. We have solar grazing with sheep that is proposed for the Miller array, and we have specialty crop growing that is proposed for the northern array on Wapping Road. So we are.
Could you help me understand what specialty crop growing is?
Well, we are going to be working because it is unique with solar that there will be shade. We are going to be working with farmers who couldn't necessarily afford having large plots of land. So these will be smaller subplots, shall we say, that if you're familiar with. Farmers who may be considered new farmers, organic farming, not to the commercial sense that you may have been seeing when the Mulnite farm was very active with tobacco, shade tobacco growing. So we are pursuing that and in discussions with consultation with the Department of Agriculture, currently ongoing.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little color there. I think the intent, the conversations are ongoing. The intent is something along the lines of placing crops between the panels. So nothing completely out of the box, just a more unique location for crops.
I think our question of our commissioner should be asking is the farmer or the landowner just doesn't want to farm anymore. So he's getting rid of his land. He's leasing his land, making a profit, downsizing, or for whatever reason. It's not the solar panel company, it's the landowner that we should probably be talking to, I think.
So does your current design call for any type of screening at all on the southern array?
Not at this time, but the conversations are ongoing, so there's
And-
plenty of time for the plans to change.
What's the proximity of the array to the property line?
The closest it gets to the southern property line is about 130 or 140 feet.
Okay.
You typically don't want to be any closer than that with panels because of the shading impacts and not having land control to clear trees. So, and there is some vegetation along that southern property line.
And the whole area is fenced?
That's
Usually?
correct. For National Electric Code, it is required to be, I believe, a 7-foot high fence, which is a certain distance off the panels and completely contains all the electrical infrastructure, as this is an energy generating facility.
Is there a building for the switchgear? I really couldn't see the plans because it's on the small computer. Is there a building for that? Or is it out in the open, the switchgear?
Oh, are you talking, that's gonna be located on a pad. There's not gonna be a building currently proposed. Of course, we haven't submitted to the siting council. So, we will be taking their feedback and changes to the plans may be necessary per their review. So that's currently what we have.
Yeah, I'll also add to that. Separately to our land use approvals, Green Skies is also going through an interconnection agreement with Eversource to determine the location of where the interconnect line, the AC line output from the facility is going to go, and the design of all the equipment as it gets transferred to Eversource. So I'm not sure that they're at the stage where they even have the concrete answers to that yet. That could be 6 months out.
Are there any direct benefits to the town of East Windsor other than the renewable energy that this project's gonna generate? But is there any benefits to the town?
Well, one of the funding mechanism for the array, the 4 megawatts, is a shared energy project. And so Eversource it's basically the program, runs that program. So residents could become a subscriber and would reach out to Eversource of being a subscriber for a shared energy project.
Okay, thank you.
Does the town get tax revenue for the value of the solar panels?
I'm not in the position to address a taxation. That's not the part of the petition, shall we say. As I said, it looks at environmental impacts, not on taxation. So I'm sure that question could be addressed to the siting council or others, but we're not involved in the taxation for the petition.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? Mike, do you have anything for them?
I'm all set at this point.
We thank you for your time. We have no additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
You too, thank you.
So I'm going to try to switch back over before
Okay.
we move on.
Yep.
can stay
You
there,
can
if you
stay,
like.
yeah, and you can see that screen better. And we may end up here again.
Recording in progress.
We're getting some. Noreen, can you hear us? Or Sarah, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties tonight. We'll try to get through this. Where we are in the agenda is under item 14, which is correspondence. Item A, Route 5 corridor study, public info meeting. So this is an ongoing project through Prague. And I believe tomorrow night, there's a public informational meeting at 6:30 PM. Yeah, I didn't bring my notice. And we're all welcome to attend, as they're going to outline the findings of the study. You know, Mike and I have been involved through this process, providing input along the way. So I haven't seen their final, I think I've seen some preliminary recommendations. So all that stuff is going to be unveiled. And the study is reaching the end. I believe it's going on nearly 2 years, or at least a year and a half anyway, for this study.
Yeah, longer than I am.
Okay.
Is the study gonna recommend going to 2 lanes going north and 2 lanes going south?
In some areas, there is proposed roadway expansion. And they have a rationale reason why it's not going to be multiple lanes in all different directions. So,
It's just driving it, it feels like there's choke points where.
there are,
it's from
and it's
2
exactly
lanes to
what they're
1 lane.
proposing is choke points. They have some suggested geometric changes and some key locations, including the Newbury Road interchange. So they've got a lot of proposals in the works. I know the TAC team, Techno Advisory Team looked at it. I know DOT has looked at it, so we're at a point where I'd like to get final feedback and finalize and publish the study.
Did the residents of Wolcott Landing in that Woodland Park area get notified? Because I think they have a hard time getting out. Or maybe everybody knows that.
Well,
And
everybody knows that, and it's that's been a fact for the last 30 years at that spot. But nonetheless, I mean, there has been properly noticed, and there has been multiple other opportunities for public input. I don't recall specifically if there's any residents, but there might have been.
As long as people know about
Yeah.
how difficult it is to get out of those streets.
Understood. Item B is Solar One declaratory ruling notification. I don't have that information. That is just a notification to us,
Those letters.
just additional letters. So this is another solar project.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them, okay.
That's one of
Geez,
my
I thought-
comments. we're kind of,
Yeah,
how many of these are there gonna be?
Mhm.
And I wonder if the town wants to weigh in on just,
what do we want the identity of the town to be? We want to be known as the solar town? Or
10 years ago, it was subdivisions,
Right.
subdivision. Now we're going to solar.
what's the new shiny object? Is it solar panels? Okay, so this is just notification note. So I would expect maybe at some point in the future, they may be before the commission, having some sort of getting our input.
It's part of, I mean, usually it's part of their due diligence. I don't know if there's a legal obligation.
Okay.
They're letting us know of their intent to submit for a declaratory ruling, which is essentially, we're letting the town know that we're gonna ask the state to tell the town that the town has no local jurisdiction. That's really, so, yeah, this, the solar one and the Mulnite, both before you, which I believe they explained through their presentation, there's 2 phases to the Mulnite.
So we don't have any even input as to what zoning, in what area any of this stuff can go into?
So if the system is not above the threshold that is within siting council approval, then we have all the jurisdiction. If it produces enough energy that it's a siting council project, then as they mentioned during their presentation, we can request a public hearing, which then allows the town to become involved. And I think that there's even a process where you can essentially, the town can basically be a petitioner. Because, and I do believe everybody recognizes there is a saturation point. I don't know if the town and the state have the same perspective on that, but maybe there's some future conversation that this commission can have with either the first board of selectmen, because they're the ones that
This brings us up to 5 right now.
we have common counts as 10, but
Oh,
well, in my mind, it's so big, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we are reaching a point. So I'll discuss this with the first selectman and see if perhaps there's a future conversation that we can have about thinking out a few years to make sure we don't get too many.
I would also hope, and I don't know that it's accurate, that the town can assess property tax, but they probably can't.
Yeah, they're not exempt from tax.
The gravel pit solar, there was discussion about how much that would generate.
But I thought they were offering the town money in lieu of taxes or something. Wasn't-
I don't know the
I don't know.
specifics. I know that towns can't sign
Taxes.
agreements. The problem with
Right.
solar from a business perspective is that it's worth so much upfront and then it depreciates
Right.
really quickly. So they have to pay the town a ton of money right when they're trying to get the project online, and then the town gets all this, and then all of a sudden. So a lot of towns are looking at stabilization agreements to keep that consistent.
Maybe
So they
that's
pay
what
less
they
upfront,
was.
but more consistent over time. So we're kind of all can plan on the revenue. That's not specific to East Windsor. I mean, a lot of towns have that.
Some state projects don't have to pay property taxes at all,
Yeah.
so they may be exempt.
So this would not, I mean, if it goes to just, yeah, it goes to the siting council for review, but it's not exempt. The land is not exempt or anything from tax. So it goes to the state because it's seen as utility essentially. It
And they don't
produces.
want the NIMBY, they want to make sure it gets built, so.
Okay. So this is a part of our agenda. We're going to circle back to new public hearings. Is there anyone here to discuss the special use permit for 69 Depot Street?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm Tim. Where do I sit?
Have a seat anywhere you want.
Thanks.
Just for the record, I'm going to introduce the project in. So we're talking about under new public hearings, item PZ 2021-23, special use permit, 69 Depot Street for an accessory apartment. The applicant is Jacobs Home Improvement. The owner is Brian and John Vincent Pica-Steve. This was postponed from our meeting on July 13th, 2021. Floor is yours. Oh. Who was that?
Jim's last name.
Jacob,
Thank you.
Tim Jacob.
Yeah, we're wanting to build a little addition for the mother-in-law and, or the mother. And we'd like to get started on this right away. I'm not sure what you would want from me any questions you have for me.
Yeah, we all have a copy of the proposed site plan. And Mike, did you have, I didn't see any staff comments.
We did get a boundary done for you guys.
Yeah, that helps. Tim, can you just kindly just walk through the project for those,
What would you like to know?
except,
Where's Depot, where's the street, where's the house?
This
Where's
is
the addition?
Depot Street here.
okay, this one.
This is existing house.
Okay,
This is the new addition that we want to put on. There'll be an entrance here from the back of the driveway, and then also one in the house here. The floor plan, you see anything else? Something you like?
We'll get a floor plan.
Would you like me to put this up here so you can see? Oh, sure. But, do this way. This is the existing house. This is the entrance from the outside. This will be the entrance from the inside. This will be the bedroom in the back, living area, and bathing and small dining area.
is that a 1 or 2 story addition?
Oh, no, it's just one story.
Just 1 story?
Oh, yeah.
City sewer,
City still good.
kitchen at all?
The kitchenette, I guess you can call it. You guys, I can maybe possibly see if I have smaller prints of this for you guys.
I think we might have had.
Yeah.
Probably put them in your files.
Yeah, I think we had it in our packet.
I'll pass this around, take a peek at it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We're keeping the roof line, everything similar to the existing house. They don't want anything further out of place.
We have a question with respect, the property owner is gonna occupy the other part of the house?
Yeah, they live there.
Okay.
Mike, what about this drives a special use permit versus a regular, just a building permit?
Our regulations require that they go before you to get a special permit for accessory dwelling.
In-law apartments, correct?
Right, yeah, so as we'll get into.
If
a
you just
little
wanted
bit
to add
later.
an extra bedroom to the house, it wouldn't require anything, but it's because of the fact that it's a separate dwelling.
You can, right, you have living space that provides, that's climate controlled, you have the ability to go to the bathroom, take a shower and cook, and you have a dwelling unit. You need to be able to do all 3 of those. So our regs require that if he did not have a kitchen or any cooking,
Then it's just a master bedroom added to it. Yeah.
just a zoning permit, right?
Okay.
What a big thing is don't make it an apartment after the whoever stops living there, that's the.
Right, and spoiler alert, what we're gonna get into.
Oh, yeah.
Is the next thing is that, there's a new state statutes which say towns have to allow accessory dwelling units as of right, which means very shortly, there will be no planning and zoning commission approvals.
That happens in another week or so, from what I understand, correct?
I don't know if it's exactly a week, but it's coming up.
Yeah, I just found that out last week myself, actually.
So the applicant could withdraw their application,
They could,
and this could be reviewed by town staff as of right.
well, we would have to, we have to change our regs. The statute says that we have to allow them as of right, which means we can't require a public hearing. So the town can require a site plan to come before the commission or staff to review it administratively. there's a little bit of discretion there.
Okay,
So
Let's get it over with.
The town of Windsor, I was working on a similar project there, and I just found all this out last week, what you just said, mentioned.
No, it's a single electric service. It's not a separate electric service.
It's single.
and I see the parking areas in the back of the house and there's adequate space.
Oh, there's plenty, yeah, there's plenty of room back there. Yeah, lots.
Is there a,
I'm gonna do a little metal detecting all around too, to see if we find any artifacts before we,
is there, I don't remember, is there a minimum square footage, 600 square feet?
900.
Or is it 900?
I think it's 9, we came in just under 6, I believe.
it's max. I think we capped.
What's the minimum?
But with the statute coming,
I thought it was.
we can't.
It's the way the world's going now.
I mean, it must be a max, because otherwise you could just build another house there.
Yeah, there's gotta be, there is a max, I believe. I think it's 9.
I think it used to be
It
600.
shall not, it can't, the accessory apartment shall not exceed 35% of the total above ground floor area and 900 square feet. So they're below those two.
Well, it used to be 6, right?
Used to be 6.
That's when I was younger, a lot younger.
Yes.
So, you know,
So any other comments from the commission before we open this up to public comment?
No, sir.
This is a public hearing. Are there any comments in the audience on the application for an accessory apartment at 69 Depot Street? Okay, I take that as a no. Right. Do we have enough information here to close the public hearing on this one? Okay, sir. Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on application PZ 2021-23 for a special use permit at 69 Depot Street for an accessory apartment.
There's a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Second. I call for vote. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed unanimously. Leanne, take it away for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2021-22 for a special. Okay. 23. Yep, for a special use permit at 69 Depot Street for an accessory apartment per section 407. The applicant is Jacob's Home Improvement. The owner is Brian and John Vincent Gaskin. The approval is granted subject to the conformance with reference plans as may be modified by the commission and disapproval, and the following conditions and modifications. So it references the plans, then there are 5 conditions, and the 5 conditions can be found in the July 7th, 2021 memo to the commission from Michael D'Amato.
There's a motion to approve the special use permit. Is there a second? Second. Second. Any discussion? I call for vote. All those in favor say aye. Raise their hand.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
You guys will be seeing you to get a bunch of money. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hope there's no more power outages.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is we have our business meeting, and there's an announcement at the end that's.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first up in our business meeting is legislative changes for review and discussion. I believe I printed a copy is something that Mike put together.
So basically, following up on what we talked about for a couple of meetings, and kind of just discussed, I'm gonna try to share this so that people can see it. Following the last legislative session, special session, and the chaos that was everything going on with a lot of the different sort of changes to the land use realm. There are a number of key takeaways, what I'm considering to be sort of the biggest takeaways from the legislative session, which are now in effect. And so what I've done is I've outlined in the table the requirements that came out of the statute, whether or not we're in compliance, and then give you basically a note and recommendation. So I'll just go through the basic requirements. We can go from there. So one of them is that outdoor dining is to be by site plan approval, which means no public hearing can be required. So if this is to basically allow the codification of what was the fire drill of trying to get everybody outdoor dining through the executive order. So they want restaurants that did that to be able to come in and very quickly be able to make that permanent, so they don't have to deal with trying to go through a long process for something that's actually been occurring for a year and a half. So our regulations don't currently allow that by site plan approval. So we would need to make an adjustment there. Family childcare needs to be allowed as of right. Our regulations currently allow that. It's listed it is listed. My suggestion is we modify it to very clearly state it as an accessory use. But I believe we're in compliance with that. Typo there, but you can't regulate a mobile or manufactured home substantially different than any other type of housing. Some towns have specific siting requirements for if you want to have a mobile home, where it can go, or say that it can't be installed unless you're rebuilding a house due to fire or something like that. So our regulations don't currently prohibit using that as a primary dwelling unit. So I don't think that we need to do anything there. Our regulations cannot prohibit cottage food in residential zones. Cottage food is you hear the cottage food industry, which is related to people producing certain types of food in their home and either bringing it off site for various types of things or selling it at farmers market or whatever. I believe our current home occupation regulations would allow for this. So I don't think we need to make any changes. We could certainly dial it back more if we wanted to, but I think we're in compliance.
Don't you have to have some kind of sanitation requirements?
Yeah, so based on, and cottage food is a specific, like I said, industry, so there are health requirements. If you fall within certain areas, or if you're regulated in a certain way by the health department, a lot of it has to be prepared in what's qualified as a commercial kitchen. So you still have to have that, but the idea is you can make it at home, not having to rent space, which is where the costs come in. But it's all right. So there's no exemptions from the health requirements. It's just.
So you could put in also a second kitchen or make your kitchen
Right.
sanitary.
So a lot of like VFWs and churches have commercial kitchens, which people rent, but there's still that increased cost. So I think that's where that comes from, but they don't get to skip the health requirements. You can't establish minimum floor areas for housing. So you can't tell someone if they have a 3-unit dwelling that they need to have 1,000 square feet per dwelling.
So this now opens up tiny homes.
Correct.
So you can have an 800 square foot or.
So I'd have to read the specific language. I don't know if it goes so far as to say all dwellings or if it's specifically multi-family housing. But our regulations either way have minimum floor area requirements, and it does fit into that. There is some recently established case law which says towns can cap the max. You can tell someone they can't build a 10,000 square foot house in the R1. You can't tell them they have to build a 2,000 square foot house. Which gets into a lot of the things that we're seeing now with people wanting to own smaller homes, downsize, or add an accessory dwelling unit. So there are some requirements that we have which include minimum floor areas in 3 different sections, which we'll need to modify. You can't require parking minimums. So a lot of towns, not really in this area, would regulate 2-bedroom apartments and other things by requiring parking, right? If you're in downtown Stamford and you want to add a 2-bedroom apartment, if you don't have 2 parking spaces, they wouldn't allow it. So that was seen as a barrier, and a lot of places don't necessarily need the parking. So there are specific limits, though you can opt out of it, to basically say if you have a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, you can't require more spaces than bedrooms. You have to be reasonable. We don't have any issues with that. Our parking requirements for dwellings is within compliance. You can't cap the total number of multifamily units in town. You can't say we're going to only approve 5 multifamily developments in East Windsor. When we get to X number of units, we're capped. So we don't have any language related to that. The other one that has ruffled a lot of feathers is that you can't cite community character in the denial of an application. You can't say we can't approve this because we're worried it's going to destroy the community character of Broadbrook. Really, the reason for that is because character is not tangible. There's no way for them to design character. They can't allay the concerns of the commission if they just cite the word character. So that's not to say.
Yeah, character of a neighborhood is kind of the size of houses, the size of lots.
So that could be density, that could be
That
overall
fit the
design.
feel,
Yes.
you know.
So those are all design standards. Everything you just talked to, we can write a regulation around that.
You can't say farming character or cultural character.
Because everybody, it's very subjective. It's like art. Someone may think something fits into the community character and somebody may not. So the idea is not that you have to allow everything. The idea is it needs to be tangible so that the folks submitting the application understand what your concerns are and have a chance at dealing with them.
Don't a lot of historic districts kind of deal with this?
So historic district, yeah, different story. This is for planning and zoning. So if you have a village district or a historic district and they need a certificate of appropriateness, totally different ballgame.
So
But
that whole warehouse point thing of wanting, I'll say, the farmhouse look, you can't.
Well, if that's where, how we create that as a village district.
I mean, you could look at that, but telling someone that you don't like the fact that they've designed a modern looking building when you
in a
would prefer.
historic area.
If it's a historic district, then we have flexibility. But if it's not, the idea is we need to point to things that are reflective of why we're here, which is health, safety, welfare, property values. So they want to create a connection between the two because no attorney or site designer can stand before a commission during a public hearing and try to deal with someone's concerns for character.
So you can't say we don't like it in our town.
Correct. But you can point to some design criteria that makes you concerned. It's too dense, it's too tall, we're worried about massing or shading, we're worried about traffic or
Monstrosity. and
stormwater, right? There's a lot of things you can do.
Overwhelms the neighborhood.
Correct. We were just working with another, we're in another town and they were talking, should we break this up to one large building or two small buildings, right? So then you can get into scale. That's how you deal with some of those things, but this doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood well.
Exactly. Well, when we did the first warehouse point study, we actually had some renderings and stuff like that, and we actually did discuss things along that specific topic, and they showed pictures of, glass and chrome buildings, and people were like, no, we don't like that,
Right.
They like the clapboard and the earth tones and things like that.
I think that a lot of towns have design standards and a lot of towns will talk about the fact that they maybe don't feel that a flat roof is appropriate. Maybe they want to see. Yeah, so there's still some ability that towns have to have the applicant flex the design and there is, that conversation can still happen. They just need to know the expectation. If you want what warehouse point to have buildings designed similar to what's there, well, then we can point to the architectural style of those buildings and now they know what to design. It's the towns that cite.
But the businesses that say, well, we have a specific, this is how our business looks, we can't do anything about
So
it.
the towns that say McDonald's can't have the golden arches and it has to look like,
Yeah, Well, yeah, and that gets into signage regulation and a whole
But
bunch
it's
of other
also
things.
the look at the outside, you see, and,
A red roof, you know, that kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Can't stop it.
Yeah, so it's not meant to take away all control into how things look, design, or feel. It's just meant to create a little bit more transparency through the process. And so moving on, we just talked about this. It says you shall allow accessory dwelling units by right. So again, that means you can't require a public hearing. We currently require public hearing, so we'll need to modify 407. Very simply, keep all the existing criteria if we want to, or we can dial it back and just list it as something that goes before staff rather than the commission. But we don't need to remove all the criteria. Some of it we may want to, because some of it's frankly a little bit antiquated. And if somebody wants to create a small unit, I know a lot of people have come in and they ask about, they want to move a parent home or something, maybe they're disabled. They don't need 900 square feet. They want one floor, they want something very small so they have some independence. So, you know, we'll be talking about that. The maximum floor area of an accessory dwelling unit or in-law apartment, as we call them, can be the less of 30% or 1,000 square feet. Again, this is just getting to not saying that you have to build them to be a certain minimum size. So we don't limit that. So we're okay there. Shall adopt an affordable housing plan. We've talked about this. All towns are required to amend and adopt an affordable housing plan by next fiscal year. Even though East Windsor has more than 10% affordable housing, we still have to have the plan. We're not subject to the appeals under 8-30G, but we still have to have that plan.
Is there criteria on what has to be in the plan?
There is unofficial guidance. So I am hoping tomorrow to submit a grant. The state has released money for towns to develop these plans. I went before the Board of Selectmen. They passed a resolution authorizing me to submit the grant on the town's behalf. So I need to just get that in and hopefully we'll have that.
When
And
does this take effect?
we have to have it in by the end of the next fiscal year. So we have some time. In my sort of day job, if you will, myself and my partner, we're writing these for a number of towns. So they have a pretty good idea of what it takes and how much time. But these ones have been pretty busy. Second, we're squared away. I talked to Amy. Yeah, don't worry about that. The technical review fees. So we don't, this is not applicable here, but this deals with some towns charge the applicant for reviews. So if we didn't have a town engineer and we sent an application to an engineering firm for review, we would actually charge the applicant for the cost to do that. Towns can develop an ordinance which says if we have any type of technical review, we do this with the town of Branford, they can charge the applicant for those review fees on the wetland side or planning and zoning. So that's what that relates to. So in a nutshell, that is what those requirements are, or at least the most important ones. So as things hopefully quiet down a little bit, we're going to start chipping away at those. The other one is, and which I didn't include in there because still waiting for some guidance related to cannabis. I'm sure everybody heard that there was recent legislation passed. So the way that reads is that towns, if they don't come up with an approach, the town has to treat it as we would retail. So we're actually going to be, there's going to be some training on it on Thursday, but a lot of the guidance is basically for towns to develop a temporary moratorium so that they don't have to deal with the applications and then come up with a way to handle it. If we do not take an approach, and I forget the date, we are obligated to treat it like retail.
So you can put it next to high school.
There's some separating distances in there, and there are a limit to the total number. It's going to take some time before they're going to get their state approvals, but the idea is they're going to come in and get space and try to get their local approvals blocked so that when they get through the state, they have it. But you're only allowed one per 25,000 people. That's that's within the state guidance. So it's not like they're gonna show up on every corner. So that'll be something that we consider probably very shortly as well. That's what I got for legislative changes.
Thank you. This matrix you put together is very helpful.
Yeah.
Keep us on target. And moving along to non-permanent structures discussion.
Yeah.
Prepare another memo.
Yeah. That's another one. Let me pull this up. Share it.
Okay.
So. Okay. So something that actually have dealt with in a number of towns and has been a process which I think is helpful to all people, staff, but also residents, deals with things like propane tanks, generators, air conditioning condensers, and some of these other sort of non-permanent mechanical units. The way that we have our current definition, it's a little bit ambiguous, but right now, if you want to come in and add AC to your house, you've got to get a zoning permit to say where where the unit's going to go. If you want to put in a propane tank next to your house or a generator, these things go before building for all applicable.
And you didn't get building permits, but you had to get it.
Yes, so it's just one of those things. It slows the process down. It adds another $100 application fee to the residents, and it just basically bogs us down with reviews for things that really are, in my view, non-permanent. Our definition of structure has this piece at the bottom which says structures do not include pavement or concrete pads. So if you look at a lot of the other things that are there that they say are structures, there's nothing really in my mind that gets to the non-permanent, such as, like I said, an AC unit or a generator. The problem we run into is if you build a house to our setbacks, these things inherently go next to the house, which means they inherently are closer to the setback. And there are distances that you have to run conduit, and you're trying to connect to a generator or a propane tank. You can as I'm sure people can attest to, can significantly increase someone's cost if we tell them they have to run into the backyard or the front yard for something that can just as easily be moved out of the way.
You don't want it in the front where you look at it.
But usually the side yards are the ones that are tightest. The front yard and the rear yard are the ones that are. So what I have here for consideration is for the commission to either tell me, no, don't do that, or yes, that's fine, to interpret some of these small, non-permanent mechanical type units as non-structural, and therefore they don't need to meet these setbacks, and we don't need to charge for the zoning reviews.
A lot of times they do the zoning review because people have septic systems and leach fields.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things.
So for the less than 200 square foot, I don't know how the zoning
You have
tasking.
to do 75 feet from the.
You gotta be
septic.
where distance from your septic
75.
or.
So we would, currently, the way that it would work now is if we had something that required health approval, we would want the health department to look at it first. But unlike the building department, we can't hold up zoning approval if they don't have health. Building can't issue until they have zoning and health. So, we can work something out to try to work through that, whether it be letting them know that they need to talk to the health department. For a lot of these small things, the health department says we don't care because putting an AC condenser doesn't necessarily.
Impact.
So we'll have to work that out.
I mean, like generator, I've never gone, stay on record, but I've never gone to zoning commission for a generator install. It's always building.
Yeah.
And a lot of your generators are on
They're usually 5 feet from the house anyways.
Mine's-
It's when some people decide to put it like 200 feet from the house, then you have the issue where you're gonna go through somebody's septic and they don't want that, or leach field.
Right. So there's going to be a little bit of discretion here. At the end of the day, if someone's putting in a diesel generator that's the size of a Volkswagen and they want to put it
Like
from
this
the
house
property
is
line, then we're gonna need
built,
to look at that. So what I'm suggesting is that non-structural units that are within 10 feet of the building, Not, so that means if they're close to the house. If you want to put something out way out in the backyard, you're trying to locate something, we want to look at some of these other things because there potentially could be a long distance of trenching. We want to look at well and septic, but you're putting a 120 gallon propane tank up against the house so you can have a gas log in your fireplace. I don't think we need to charge you $100. Okay, so
I agree.
Or for your
I agree.
gas ring.
But if you have an
For your-
outside. yeah,
And the AC unit, you know, when it ranks the house, who cares?
Yeah, it's.
Ram look at it.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, and it's, you know, trying to be, I don't know that this qualifies as business friendly, it qualifies as resident friendly, but, you know, if they have to go to health department, that's a B100A, so that's another review fee. The building department is based on the cost of the generator, and if they have an electrical permit for a service, I mean, this could become an expensive process, and I feel that it's not necessary, so we're looking for your blessing to.
I agree. I don't know.
We all in agreement?
Yes.
Very good.
So I don't need any motion, I just wanted to have. Without, you know, the zoning regulations clearly set up, staff doesn't establish a process. We can interpret the zoning regulations, give you for guidance, but we can't decide, hey, this is the procedure now, so that's really.
Okay, and there was a ZEO report. Were we going to get into the specifics or just entertain any questions someone might have? Anybody have any specific questions on any one of the?
Bring it up. And I know we talked about getting Ruth here, and it is on my radar, but between Peg and Ruth, they're holding the fort without having Amanda. So I'm not asking Ruth to do anything that I don't have to have her do because she's,
Fair enough.
everybody's been very busy.
This is good. I heard the whole night.
But we did talk about that, and so as we move forward, we did discuss 2 meetings ago, having sort of a joint commission meeting about POCD implementation related to open space. So there will be some things that she'll be before the commission on, so we're gonna try to bring those together, so she can talk about this. You know, she'll have her CEO report at the same time, because it'll be the second meeting. So we will get her in front of you, but I'm trying to sing so that we can keep everything moving. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Anybody have any questions?
No,
Doing a really good job.
suggesting reading.
So does anyone have anything for the good of the order? I do have an announcement to make. This is my last planning and zoning commission meeting. And the reason being is I recently accepted a new position at the Connecticut DOT. I'm going to be the executive director of the Office of the State Traffic Administration. From time to time, there are large developments that we approve locally that have to go to the state for approval. So I'll be executive director of that whole office. So there is definitely a conflict of interest of any development that this board passes will go to the state for approvals. So I cannot be involved in local zoning. So it's potential conflict of interest. So I will be resigning before the next meeting.
I knew it.
So,
I knew it. So he said that, I said, yeah.
so I've been, I'm just trying to go back to my records. I think I've been on the commission for 25 years, since 1994. Not as long as Frank. Frank, I think is, he carries a torch. I think I've been chair for over 15 years.
Since I've been here 12, 11.
Well, we kind of railroaded you into that at the time. I remember that. I should say that. Just since at the time when someone was getting through, and you were a rookie at the time.
Well, I was, and
And we said, Joe's our man, Joe's our man. And we've been our man ever
well, if longevity is what you wanted, that's what you got.
Do a great
20,
job.
25 years of, you know, and I tell you, I've learned so much about the town, so much about this process, and it's so been personally rewarding working with each and every one of you.
Shoes are gonna be hard to fill, that's for sure.
You'll get by. You'll get by.
Anthony, go home, have a good drink tonight.
Then I go for doing.
Vice Chairman, thank you.
And now we have to really worry about two.
One last thing, does anybody on the commission know of anyone that would like to be an alternate?
We need somebody, we need.
I mean, what are we gonna do? You know, if I should die, which is a possibility, what happens? You're only gonna have 4.
Yeah,
Take a vacation, won't have a quorum.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Noreen is, I wonder if she would be interested.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't want anybody, but we have good people in town, a lot of people that.
Hopefully that job came with a nice pay raise. You deserve it. Yeah, you deserve it.
This is an incredibly good commission in the sense of compatibility.
Doing my same job now for 34 years, so it's time to do something different. What do you mean, the job change? Oh, yeah, right now I'm in engineering, I'm going to a purely administrative job. Just rubber stamping things, or just final regulatory approval. This office oversees all public speed limits, so it sets speed limits on all public roads. Requests for no through trucks, passing zones, approvals of stop signs, traffic lights, yield signs. It's a regulatory office for all things public. So
Town
it's,
roads too, can you like reduce the speed?
well, yeah, our, the state traffic administration has purview on speed limits in all public roads.
Oh.
So my office, the office I'm moving to will.
So we can write you a letter asking them.
Well, there's a process to go through. Yes, it has to go through the town, the local traffic authority, which is the police department. Right, so yeah, there is a process to officially make a request. Yep. So
Congratulations. But you retire, John.
may never return.
Something you want to say, you're gonna retire.
Well, boys are out of college, right?
Yes, everyone's out of college.
Now you can think about it.
Everyone's,
What about staff in the office? Any progress to finding
Interviews
another
this week
person? Okay,
for Amanda's position. Very hopeful. But, just gonna keep things rolling.
it's doing great.
Shane keeps on chugging along.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
It's a sad day.
Yep.